Chairman Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Mr. Colby, you've advocated a reduction in support for Ukraine, which you characterize as a distraction from Taiwan. Yet, former CIA Director Bill Burns, one of the most astute commentators about Russia, former ambassador, CIA Director, stated that no one is watching U.S. support for Ukraine more closely than Chinese leaders. And, quote, one of the surest ways to rekindle Chinese perceptions of American fecklessness and stoke Chinese aggressiveness would be to abandon support for Ukraine. So what message are the President's actions sending?
Well, Senator, I'd say a couple things. One, my arguments about Ukraine have been based on the need for strategic prioritization. I don't contest the fact that the Chinese are looking at what we're doing in Ukraine at all. But fundamentally, Senator, my view, and I think it should be of particular interest to this committee, sir, is that we have to have the military capabilities in Asia or relevant to Asia to be able to conduct a local defense of Taiwan at a cost and level of risk that the American people are prepared to tolerate. And that has been my main focus. My aspiration, if I would put another, and to kind of build on what the Vice President was saying, a longer term top priority for me would be, if confirmed, would be to revivify our defense industrial base so that we are no longer in a position where our defense industrial base cannot produce at levels where we can resource in multiple theaters at the level that we need. That's where we want to get back to.
Well, I don't think there's a dispute about reinvigorating the industrial base. I think, though, there is, from astute personalities like Bill Burns, the fear that we're sending dramatically the wrong lesson. Indeed, on December 2023, you stated, quote, "The invasion of Ukraine is an evil act by the Russians, and I morally support the Ukrainian defense." Do you still agree with that statement?
Senator, I think I stand by my record, but at this point, I think there's a very delicate diplomatic process going on where the President is rightfully trying to resuscitate the peace process, and I don't think it would be appropriate for me to weigh in on the specific case.
The President indicated the Russians invaded Ukraine, which is completely erroneous, and that Zelensky is a dictator, which is, I think, also erroneous. And, you know, we're in an awkward situation now. He's cutting every sort of tool we have, and that's not the way to negotiate. I don't think that was in the art of the deal. So I think we're in a very serious situation. Let me change topics for a moment. General Mattis, who I respect immensely as former Secretary of Defense and as a Marine, stated, "If you don't fund the State Department fully, then I need to buy more ammunition," which raises the question of the wisdom of eviscerating the USAID. In many places in the world, and you know this, that's the only American presence. That's the counterpoint to Chinese incursions all across the globe. And now we've put them out of business. And it's been indicated that this will cause millions of unnecessary deaths, particularly of children and women. And it seems to be undercutting our power in the world, our soft power. Your thoughts?
Well, Senator, I think it's certainly very important to have an effective and efficient diplomatic arm, the State Department, as well as a development arm, and I would certainly support that. Would not be within my purview, obviously, a number of the issues that you're raising, if confirmed. But I certainly support a tight interaction and integration with the other arms of national power, especially in an era, as we said in Secretary Mattis's defense strategy, where we are no longer in a kind of unipolar militarily dominant situation.
With respect to NATO, I mean, one of the fallouts from our Ukrainian decisions over the last few days is that our European allies feel essentially abandoned, that the NATO alliance is as fragile as it's ever been. And as we all recognize, NATO was the key for the last, since 1949, to our ability to stabilize the world and to promote a democratic and economic agenda that favored the West, and that's in danger now. The President, in his last term, was insisting on 2% or everybody at NATO. Now it's more almost like a landlord saying, I'm raising the rent unless you do something, something, something. Do you believe the NATO alliance has made us stronger and that if it's jeopardized, we will be in serious trouble?
Senator, I believe that the NATO alliance has been an exceptionally successful alliance, but I think if we're going to sustain it, it needs to move in the direction that President Trump is leading it in, and where I think the Europeans are finally moving. If you look at Chancellor Merz, who's coming in Germany, or President Macron, or Prime Minister Starmer, they're not only spending more. 2% is manifestly inadequate. General Colby has said that. Many others have said that. They need to see real combat capabilities. The conversation has materially improved in recent months and over the last few years, where we can get NATO into a more balanced fashion. And Senator, I believe that that's much more consistent with the model of NATO that existed during the Cold War, rather than the post-Cold War model, which is too heavily lopsided in American responsibility, and it needs to change to be sustained.
Thank you.